We're going to draw some blood today. We need maybe about 3 to 10 milliliters, which is probably just a vial. And then we're going to spin it down and send it to a physician in Emory who's going to test it for PCBs. I'm going to get my blood too, and probably my mom, and I don't know if anyone else, to compare, since we don't live in that area, to see if it's any different.
He'll pass out in a minute.
Are you still working down at the clinic? I have lost track of.
This was heavy in the best way. Even from the beginning, I was kind of like comparing it to Aaron Brockovich type stuff, but obviously very much so in the real world. I feel like you don't really hear too much on the news about anything contaminated unless it has to do with Flint, Michigan. But I like how it kind of made the point to say that there are other people and other places in the U.S. who are going basically through what Minden is going through. I think it was very powerful from the beginning when Butter Thomas was kind of literally going through the town, the street that he was walking on, and naming all the people by name who had cancer, who died of cancer, who had some sort of blood disease, and it's believed to be caused by PCBs. I've never heard of PCBs, and a story like this is why it's so important to be told, because of course I would have no clues because it's not on the news. There's no way for me to have known this if not for the people of Minden making this and getting the word out there. I think it was truly beautiful to have different perspectives as well. You have Dr. Amjad and her father, and just kind of like I loved how they had the archival footage of him also fighting for the cause and fighting for his patients and whatnot. It was very interesting to see a story that wasn't fully successful, and just kind of the reality of the situation. Having the government official who was saying like, oh, if they had filed this in 1984, they would have won and all that, and like how he's trying to sound sympathetic, but he really kind of sounds like an asshole. But at the same time, it's like very interesting to see both perspectives, very interesting to understand both perspectives, in which like he's like, if they had done this years ago they would have won, but like now they're kind of going out of their way to make sure that they don't, I don't know. But it was just, I thought this was very good, and as you can see, me being frustrated and frustrated means that you got the message across.
It's incredibly informative, and it sheds light on something that I don't think many people are aware of, is PCBs and the effects that they have on your health and how detrimental they are, and how serious they are for something that doesn't get a lot of awareness. I think this does a good job of promoting awareness about that, but also the effects, and it does it in one of the most heart-wrenching ways of showing all the individuals who have been affected and who have passed or who have gotten different cancers from it. I think you do a really great job of informing, but also putting not so much a sense of fear, but concern into the viewer to wonder what's going on, how it affects art themselves, and how it affects these communities. I think this is incredibly effective in creating a call to action for the viewer, and continuing research on prevention and how to stop this crisis.
I think that the cinematography was beautiful. I loved what they did with the camera work. The filmmakers were so smart about how they put this film together. The way that it started, it kind of drops you in this mystery, and then they reveal what the film is about. And I think that that was very clever. I think it was really clever how they went about introducing you and making you a part of the people's lives who lived in Minden. I think I said that right. Yes. So you kind of get to know them, and you get attached to them, and you're understanding what's happening and the horror of how they had this toxic chemicals that weren't disposed of properly. It shone a spotlight on that to kind of remind the rest of the country and the world that this was happening and this was going on. I really think that they did such a lovely job in connecting it emotionally.
I love how the opening sequence of the train and the establishing shot really creates this wonderful moment of beauty and the beauty of this world as we witness this world building. I love how the story immediately throws us into the world of these characters. And instead of it starting with an interview like a normal documentary would show, it more shows us them in the natural elements, like at the clinic, getting their bloods drawn, etc. And then about 2 minutes into the story, we actually get the real story with these characters and the world that they are trying to build. I love that the plot of this documentary piece tries to bring awareness about cancer and how the small little town has been affected by this hardship for several years, especially how the guy in the opening sequence lets us know who around the small little town have been affected by cancer and who have passed away. This documentary piece was really eye-opening. It had some great soundtrack choices, and the story overall was stunning.
When he went down the street detailing everyone who died of cancer, it was very frightening. And it definitely puts you in the space of understanding the severity of the situation. It's a town plagued with disease. So your PCPs from the mining equipment company, and this place has been listed as one of the most toxic places in USA, even though it has been cleaned up multiple times. And so there's this injustice of the small towns being subjected to these chemicals with no help or no solutions. And the want and desire is that this town to be moved into a non-toxic area. It's interesting to see how people would ignore the health issues of the town in the effort to keep their home and keep the comforts that they're used to. It really follows this doctor who seems to be fighting harder for the town than the town herself. There's just definitely moments that stick out to me. One is with the lawyer clearly being represented as the villain in this. Even the way he talks about the people of the town is unsophisticated. It's just dripping with the air of like condescension. The main person we follow is a doctor who's dedicated herself to taking up her father's fight for this town, while also sacrificing her own dreams of motherhood and her own relationship. And inevitably, we see the breakdown of both of those things throughout the course of the documentary. And I feel at the end of this, we didn't really get the answer as to why there's so much cancer in the area. What is the solution to the problem? And how do we fix it going forward? What we just got a sense of people who are going to fight for it and continue to, even if there may not be an answer to be found.
It has, unfortunately, all the elements of great trauma, and it gets us into it right away. Right away I was leaning in. I'm like, oh wait, they're testing these people. Okay, where? So you're immediately invested because there are clearly real lives at stake here. So it's again unfortunate. The story has this real human drama built into it, but the filmmakers use that to great effect. They just put together a really strong documentary. For the way it's bookended, it kind of ends where it started, sure. But along the way, following the Amjad family, I believe the father and daughter, and their journey through this, and it's so much, far history and recent history, and just so concerning. And I found it's interesting to me, but it's also really heartbreaking. It's unfortunate, like these poor people, something needs to be done. So, I mean, for that reason alone, I'm glad this film exists. If it can help raise any more awareness of the situation in Minden, then all the better. But, I mean, it kind of blows your mind that we're still, letting our own people like suffer and die. This all for, anyways, the film is just really well done, put together the way, we get all these real human stories, and the way there's just so much cohesion between all the different elements, and just smart filmmaking.